documented African American Institute in Gwinnett County. We can document our history to 1862. By word of mouth, our history goes to 1834. This is a museum of our history, not just our history, but African American history, particularly in Gwinnett County and North Georgia. By this time next year, every hall will be filled with historic artifacts. Who's here for the first time? Who's never been in this building before? Raise your hand. Good, y'all get in the front of the line. We'll take a quick walk. So if you join me, we'll start right here at this mural. 1834, a building was built at the corner of Rockbridge Road and Lawrenceville Highway on a plantation owned by a family known as the Carrolls. The Carrolls were first recorded in Gwinnett County Census in 1820. In 1830, we see them as Rockbridge Road. The Carrolls owned over 700 acres as sharecroppers. Built their own building and organized what they call the Salem Baptist Church of God. They worshiped there until 1886. In 1886, they saved their money, went to downtown Milford, built their own worship facility because they said they never wanted any ties with people who once owned them. Now, unlike, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Then in 1907, they moved across the street and swapped deeds with a Mr. Massey because the property across the street had 2 wells. Unlike other cities, anybody know what's unique about Lilburn that other cities like Snellville, Decula, Lawrenceville, Beaufort, all the other towns in Gwinnett have that Lilburn does not? They all have a black community. They all have a black community that dates back to slavery. My mother was from Decula. She grew up in the Rabbit Hill area of Decula. That community is still there, not Lilburn. Lilburn had 2 very thriving African American communities, one called the Salem Church community that went from here all the way past what's called Old Town Lilburn. There was another at Five Forks Trippin. There were 3 churches in Lilburn: Salem, Little Zion, and Yellow River. Little Zion and Yellow River did not continue because of race relations. Lilburn was notorious and basically ran all the black people out of Lilburn. You see that as we go down the hallway. Because of thriving community, in 1926, they built a building that would house about 400 persons, a large church. But between 1926 and 1961, everybody was run out of Lilburn and the membership dwindled. So they built a much smaller building. When they tore down this building, they found 2 cases of dynamite in the ceiling. The wick to the dynamite had been lit, but thank God it didn't go all the way to be charged. Amen. 1967, they added facade to this building. Then 1998, the building that we now occupy, you've never been in our church, it's a little deceiving. Our sanctuary is downstairs. Sanctuary actually seats about 800 people. So let's go. Any specific questions at any time? Turn around and look to the right. The Carroll family owned the plantation where the church was started. You see the plantation owners, the enslavers, Carrolls, and their relatives McCurdy. That's actually the plantation house. That red piece of stained glass is from the doorway of that plantation house. You have a Bible that's about 140 years old. This talks about our early history. You see the slave record. Anybody know what that was? When they did a census, they didn't give us a name. They identified us by our gender, our age, and whether we were called Negro or mulatto. What was a mulatto? Mixed. This is Gwinnett County before most of the cities. Lilburn was in the Berkshire area of Gwinnett County. These are all the enslavers in Lilburn and how many they enslaved in the 1850 census. You see, the Carroll family had 29. If Gwinnett County did not have a lot of huge plantations, if you enslaved more than 15 people in Gwinnett County, you were considered quite wealthy. But notice that John Carroll enslaved 19 and Rhoda Carroll enslaved 10, their husband and wife. So many times the enslaved would be owned by the wives and the children. Sometimes from a dowry, but also from a financial perspective. Anybody know why it was a financial perspective?
The woman would keep the money.
Because of the station of women then,
Yes.
the taxes would not be as much if a woman owned them. Here are some of our old documents. We have documents that date back to the 1860s. This is the only picture we have of enslaved members. That's Reverend Waddy and Clara Stevens, who were enslaved by the Stevens. Those are actually my great-grandparents. If anybody knows the Hutchins and the Hopkins, Bishop Jerry Hutchins, Harold Hopkins, those are their great-grandparents. Even though the Stevens from Norcross, Perry Stevens, Lovey Stevens, those are also their great-grandparents. And going down this way, we just have pictures of prominent families. The Stevens, the Hopkins, who were landowners in Gwinnett, the Baileys. Now, the Stevens side of my family is originally from Gwinnett. The Bailey side is not. The Bailey side of my family were enslaved in Jackson County. And after emancipation, they moved to Lilburn and Cross Keys. But they moved to Lilburn because of something that happened to my great-grandfather and his brother in Jackson County. After enslavement, they were freed, and they were sharecropping. And one day, I found this in the Freedmen's Bureau records. The sharecropper, the owner, called the police and had them jailed, my great-grandfather and his brother. The Freedmen's Bureau heard of what was happening to them and came and represented them in court. They were found innocent. They were jailed for stealing. You know what they stole? They were sharecroppers, and they brought in the sweet potato crop. And when they brought in the sweet potato crop, the owner said that they were 5 pounds short, and they'd stolen 5 pounds of sweet potatoes. Other interesting thing about this is that half of them, there were 22 brothers and sisters. 22. One woman, no twins. Half of them came to Lilburn. The other half went to Cross Keys, but one Sunday a month, those who lived in Cross Keys would walk back to Salem for church. Story says they start on Friday, get here Friday night or Saturday morning, stay till Monday and walk back. Look the other way. This table was set by a pastor who had a birthday celebration, but if you look above the table is our display of the Green Book and some copies of the Green Book. Does everybody know what the Green Book was? Yeah. Where people could stay safely, where African Americans could stay safely as they travel. And eat, yeah. See, picture Mr. Green who did the book, and then there's some other Salem members who had migrated. This is our display of the Great Migration and where people from this church in this area migrated to. Now we often think of Michigan and Chicago, but in the early 1920s, a family from here migrated to Sioux City, Iowa. I'm going quick. This is a story of how migration started in this area. My dad was one of 13 children. He was number 7. He married late. He was almost 50 when I was born. This story, my father's eldest brother. His eldest brother served in World War I, came back from World War I to Gloucester Road where they lived, decided, even though he was warned not to wear his military uniform to the store. Drove his truck to the store, wore his uniform to the store, went in the store. When he and his brother-in-law came out of the store, there was an angry white mob waiting on them. They took my uncle, beat him, tied him behind his own truck, and drug him to the front porch of my grandparents' house. Threw him on the porch and surrounded the house. My dad was only 10. He said that my grandfather grabbed his gun, but my grandmother stopped him because they would have killed all of them. But later in the evening, the town doctor, who's Dr. McCurdy, came and started calling their names and telling them to go home. My dad said at that, they took Uncle Clifford, put him on the back of the wagon, and drove all night and took him to Grady's. If you knew older black people, they say Grady's because there were two Grady's, one for black folk, one for white folk. Stayed in Grady about 3 weeks, left Grady, went to downtown Atlanta, bought a trunk, came immediately back to Lilburn, packed his trunk, moved to Chicago, Illinois, and never came back. 5 of his siblings followed him. These are some things that belong to him. That's him listed on our church record. That's a box that held candy that he brought back for his sisters in the late 1920s. That's his Bible. This is a shell casing from World War I that was actually in the war, and they decorated it. And these are a pair of wooden shoes from when he was stationed in Holland that he brought back for his little sister. You look to your behind this way, that furniture is over 100 years old. This pew is about 120 years old. Salem, like many of the churches in Lilburn, operated a school. These are some teachers who taught in Salem School. If you know the story of Hooper Renwick, Mr. Hooper, that the school was named after, taught first at Salem School before Hooper Renwick. This picture of Mr. Hooper, pictures of students, pictures of teachers. These books are from school in the 1920s. Then if you look on this side, again, we want this to be regional, so we partnered with some other organizations. One organization we partnered with is the Equal Justice Initiative. Has anybody been to the lynching museum in Montgomery? Okay, that's what this came from. And you know, they actually go to an area where there was a lynching, and they do a ceremony where they take a jar of the soil there, leave a jar of the soil here. They gifted us with the soil that was left here from the only documented lynching. Now we know there were more, but the only documented lynching in Gwinnett County, which was Mr. Charles Hale. Quickly, you can read this. Mr. Hale was walking home. A white lady said she'd been accosted. They grabbed him, took him to jail, forced him to plead guilty, put him in jail overnight. The next day, a mob came to the jail, demanded the sheriff to release him. The sheriff gladly released him. They took Mr. Hale, in his actual picture, they took Mr. Hale, and there's a plaque there, and hung him on the telegraph pole at the old courthouse in Lawrenceville. Once they hung him on the telegraph pole, then they shot his body. Then they left him hanging overnight, went home, got dressed up, and went back the next day and took pictures with him. And put a sign on his body that says, "Please don't wake him." These are the number of lynchings that have occurred that are documented.
Is that what they call having a picnic?
Yes. Some people think that's what the word picnic comes from. Okay. Here we get to more modern times of our church. This is a pastor that brought us through the time when the church was very small and had not very many members. Reverend C.B. Reeves was here for 33 years. This is furniture from the 1940s. On the other side is Reverend DeWitt Scherer, who started to lead us as we began to grow. These are choir robes through the years. The one with the hat is from the 1930s, because a woman couldn't go beyond the pulpit without her head covered. This rail is the only thing that survived from the church that had the bomb in it. That piano is from 1930. Those are some older ushers' uniforms. And again, by the time you come back, things will be on all the walls. This is our baptismal wall. This is baptism from the 1940s. You had to be really saved to go down there in the muddy hole, wouldn't you? It was in the middle of a cow pasture. If you know where, if you know where Providence School is, on Lawrenceville Highway, it was right behind Providence. And then this is baptism through the years. Pastor Reeves, Pastor Shera, Pastor Haynes. This is Pastor Haynes, who's our current pastor. He's in his 39th year, and as of April 26th, he will have retired from pastoring our church. That's it in a nutshell. I'll answer any questions. I'm here. You're welcome to come back, take more time. Again, within the next 6 to 8 months, there will be displays on all of these walls. One more thing, and then we'll go. Follow me back this way. This is our simulated amen corner. And those are actual old seats from the church. And then in the middle are quilts. One quilt is mothers of the church, deacons, and pastors. Then if you look in the far corner is our communion, antique communion. And then behind you is a timeline of our existence. So, take your time.